Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Football Preview Show brought to you by FriendshipCars.com. I'm Kenny Hawkins along with my tag team partner, Jesse Kroll, and we have now entered Week 11, about to. That takes place tomorrow night. It will be Week 10 in Southwest Virginia. Tonight, we're going to preview some of the games we're going to have on tomorrow night. Maybe none bigger than probably one of the best rivalries in the state of Tennessee, and that's Science Hill taking on Dobyns-Bennett. Let's start with Science Hill because basically they come in and control their own destiny. They win the conference, they have home field advantage. If they lose, Dobyns-Bennett takes it because they win it by virtue of the tiebreaker, and then it just throws everybody else in a mess. So let's talk about Science Hill. This is a team that was off last week, so they should be rested and ready.
Oh, they should definitely be rested and ready, and they also have plenty of momentum going into this game, you know, rather it's this season or this rivalry, honestly, because Dobyns-Bennett, they've been stumbling against Science Hill. I mean, you look at last year's team, I mean, preseason, they were supposed to, you know, compete for state championship. Now, they, you know, doing pretty well in the playoffs, but they got that blemish against Science Hill, and Science Hill, you know, they feel like they got that mental edge, that mental upper hand against Dobyns-Bennett. And when you really look at the Science Hill team, I mean, if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, now I got to always preface this. You know how I put my Captain Obvious hat on sometimes, you know, but if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, they could be one of the best teams in the area. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb on that one. You have 30-something seniors. You got an experienced quarterback. You have an experienced, you know, offensive line. You've got plenty of weapons, whether it's running the ball or, you know, throwing it outside on a couple of the wide receivers. Your defense is stout. I just think the Science Hill team, and I'm not trying to dig the knife even deeper, but I feel like they should be just a little bit better than they are right now. But I think it's just because it's silly mistakes. And if you cut down on those silly mistakes, especially against the Dobyns-Bennett team, I think the Science Hill team could have a field day on Friday.
Well, one thing about Science Hill, I will say, some of their losses have come against the best teams in the state.
Yep.
I mean, they lost early in the year to Knox Powell. Obviously, they lost to Elizabethan, still one of the top teams in the state. And then, of course, they lost to Maryville, the best team or second best team in the state of Tennessee. But they're coming off probably their best game, and that's a 37-0 whipping of Jefferson County. I think that surprised everybody. Science Hill gets it done basically through the air. Let's be honest. Complimentary is the run brought on by Brock, but Science Hill offense goes the way Jackson Diamond goes, and obviously that's going to be something that DB is going to have to at least try and slow down.
And DB's got some athletes in the secondary. I mean, these kids aren't going to lollygag back there and, you know, just kind of let them toss it up 30, 40 times a game tomorrow night. But it's one of those things, too, where Dobyns-Bennett has also stumbled against some pretty bad teams. And there's no knock on other teams, but, I mean, we talk about this Jeff County team that we're talking about Science Hill that just ran over them. If you want to do that type of thing where you go up against scoreboards and you kind of measure it out, Science Hill should roll over them tomorrow. But, I mean, we can't be doing that. If you could do that, you'd drive yourself nuts.
We can't do it because we did it last year. Remember? We did it last year with Dobyns-Bennett, and Dobyns-Bennett had 30 seniors. And they had, 16 of their 22 starters are now gone. So they had 22 starters last year on this team, but they still got beat. I mean, these two teams have been playing since 1921. Mark told me about it. He was at that first game. It was, you know, and it's got Dobyns-Bennett leading with 63 wins in the series. But here's the thing. I mean, 8 of the last 9 games have gone to Science Hill. The last 2 have gone to Science Hill. Before that, this is well before your time, Dobyns-Bennett had almost won 20 in a row.
Yeah.
So at one point, Dobyns-Bennett dominated the series, but Science Hill has kind of been theirs here lately. We had an opportunity to talk with the Science Hill Hilltoppers about this big matchup and what is on the line. As I mentioned, everything is in their corner. If they win the conference, and they also take home field advantage.
Every year they give us our best and we give them their best. You know, last year we were going into it severely outmatched. You know, everyone was favoring them, and, you know, we came out with the win. And, you know, 3 years ago we were favored and they came out with a win. So I think there's really no, like, clear-cut decider. I mean, we're both going to be playing our best football, and it's just the team that executes best is going to win.
We've never lost to them, the guys that have only played 3 years, and we don't want that to change, you know.
I think they play very disciplined on defense. You know, their linebackers are pretty smart. They play aggressive too, which I think has helped their team a lot. Their defense is very aggressive, like flowing to the ball. So we just got to look out for that. But I think if we execute, we'll be all right.
I think big plays early help a lot with that. Get the momentum on your side, and then it's hard for the other team to come back from that.
What secures that #1 seed, also bragging rights over Dobbins-Bennett, big rivalry. So we're just we're focused right now, and obviously that's our #1 goal, beat Dobbins-Bennett and win that conference.
Just being there to win and being there for each other and really, really, really wanting to win this conference and win that huge rivalry football game.
We talk about it every week. It's not just this rivalry. We talk about it with every rivalry. It really doesn't matter what the record is.
No.
Okay? These two teams could care less about that right now. This is all about pride. And both teams want to win for not only their football team and themselves, but they want to win for their community. Let's take a look at Dobbins-Bennett. I just said they had 30 seniors last year. 16 of the 22 were starters. This is a team that's coming off a hard-fought win over Oak Ridge last week. So I'm not going to say they're going to be rested and ready, but it's a team that's been in the action and should not show any rust in the beginning of this game tomorrow night.
It's very interesting, too, because, Science Hill is coming off that bye week. They're coming off wins. They're coming, plenty of momentum. But like you just said, is that going to hurt them a little bit? Because is that rust going to show? Is that, that rest and that week off going to really show? We don't know. But Dobbins-Bennett, obviously, they have a little bit momentum, coming off that win. But I think they would have thought they would have done a little bit better. I think they wanted to, maybe pull their seniors out in the second half and be able to push them just a little bit further away from Oak Ridge. But, a win's a win no matter what. But you bring up that mentality, and I wanted to key on that a little bit. It'll be interesting because you said that, any rivalry, you throw out the records. But I feel like this one, especially, you have to do that. It's the season 0-0 because whatever happens tomorrow is gonna. It doesn't matter what you did beforehand. What you do tomorrow is gonna lay the cards out for the rest of the season. Whether it's the postseason, well, it is gonna be the postseason. So the postseason, conference championship, everything. So anything that you did leading up to this, whether it was good or bad, throw it out the window because this is what it's all about. So you bring up Dobbins-Bennett and they've got plenty of young kids, but they've got also plenty of experience from those young guys. And I know that sounds kind of a little contradicting, but that's just how this team is. And I think Joey Christian will literally have these guys ready to go no matter what.
One of the things we always talk about, if you got two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. Dobbins-Bennett's got two quarterbacks. Okay, maybe that only works in Knoxville. But anyway, you get two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. Dobbins-Bennett has actually made it work. You got Jake Carson, who has probably played more, to be honest with you. He's got almost 1,000 yards in passing and 13 touchdowns on the season. And then you got the junior, Noah Blankenship, who's got about 7 touchdowns, 687 yards as well. So they've been able to work the two quarterback situation. They've been able to make it work this year.
Now, I think that is a testament to Joey Christian. I mean, being able to work that system in, and I don't know, I'm not a head coach. But if you get a brand new head coach in that really doesn't know Dobbins-Bennett, doesn't know Dobbins-Bennett's system, doesn't have players come in that have been playing since, 3rd, 4th grade and know the system, what Dobbins-Bennett's all about, I don't know if that works. I don't know if it works with any other head coach. And there's no knock on any other head coach. I'm just saying if you bring a new head coach in, I don't know if that works. But hats off to the DB offense. I mean, you brought up losing all those players from last year, and I think we've kind of hammered this home a little bit this year. But just being able to rebound like they have. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I didn't think they were going to win that many games before the season.
I don't think a lot of people thought they'd win that many games at the beginning of the year because of so many people that they lost. And just a minute ago, you referenced the Oak Ridge game, and they wanted to win it bigger, but that's another rivalry. And I had mentioned last week, I said this is a better 2-7 team than a lot of people think. The best thing that happened is for Dobbins-Bennett, they came away with the win. Now, one of the things they did do is they held Oak Ridge to less than 10 points. I think a lot of that has to do with Ben O'Donnell, Levante Daniel, Jordan Faulkner, Kidd, Brent Bell, and Kevin Smith. I think these guys on the defensive line, we haven't talked about them a lot. And they're going to have their hands full, obviously, this week against Science Hill because you're going to have to stop Brock running, and then you're going to have to figure out a way to get to Jackson Diamond.
And I think if you do one, you're going to take away the other, really, because if you're able to get pressure and stop those holes on the running game, that means you're controlling the offensive line, or I should say, the line of scrimmage. So if you're able to control that line of scrimmage and you're able to get that push, you're going to be able to get that pressure on Jackson. So if you're able to get that pressure on Jackson, that takes away from the passing attack, and we've seen him sometimes where he gets out of the pocket, and then the secondary needs to, I think Dobbins-Bennett has a really good enough secondary where if he gets out of the pocket, they're going to be able to shut down wide receivers, and that defensive line's going to be able to get going.
Okay, let me ask you this then. If Coach Christian goes in tomorrow, and you said we're not coaches, but we are here on this show. We're undefeated.
And we're always right, aren't we?
That's right. That's
Exactly.
right. But the question is, if you try and make Science Hill one-dimensional, do you make them one-dimensional to try and get them to run the ball, or do you make them one-dimensional in passing the football?
You got to put me on the spot like that, don't you?
You said you weren't the coach. We're coach here.
I almost cussed right there. That's a dang good question. I think you got to go run the ball. Because, here's the thing. If you're point chasing, how many times are you going to break off 50, 60-yard runs? Jackson has the arm where he can every single play. He can beat you deep. But Baylor, and that's no knock on Baylor Brock. He's a great running back. 1 or 2 in yards. I think he's second. Maybe Gudger's first, but I think he's second or third in yards. So he can get it done. But I think if you're going to stop something, you got to go pass attack.
It would surprise you. Seth Birchfield is actually the leader in this area as far as rushing the football. And then I think it's Gudger. And on down the line,
Another burst from Cloudland. There we go.
From Cloudland. I think he leads the area in rushing right now. I don't know. I don't know what you do. I don't think
exactly right. You asked me that question. You say, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you flood the box. I think you put help back in the defensive backfield and you try and cut off the pass and force them to beat you on the ground. Obviously, we don't get paid the big bucks to figure that out. That's up to Coach Joey Christian. We had an opportunity to talk to him this week about this big game against Science Hill, trying to snap the 2-game losing streak to the Toppers. And also, if they win, as I mentioned, because of tiebreaker, they would win the conference because they have more. The overall record is better. Here's what they had to say.
It's Kingsport, Johnson City. It's always going to be a hard-fought game. I think the last, 5 or 6 years, it's come down to the very end. Game's not been decided until, really, quite honestly, the last 2 or 3 minutes. And I expect the same thing. I expect, Coach Carter does such a great job over there. That's just a well-coached team, very talented team. You can tell how solid they are and how hard they play. And we know we've got a mighty task ahead of us Friday night.
I expect them to play hard. It's always a good game between Dobbins-Bennett and Science Hill. One team could not win a game all year and the other team could win every game, but it'd be a close game. And, they're going to play hard, but we're going to play harder.
I expect a lot of pass plays. They did that a lot last year, and I expect them to come out ready to play. It's always a fun game, us against Science Hill, and they always come out ready to play because it's a big rivalry.
They're so good offensively. Diamond, the quarterback, he does such a good job of finding his open receivers and getting the ball out. The Torbett boys, are fast, athletic. The Cutlip kid can, he can really catch a ball and, shows what good athletes can do out on the football field. And, so we know we've got our work cut out for us in the pass game. But listen, up front, I think they're as solid as they've been in a long time. Such a really good offensive line. They do a good job of, tightening their splits down, and but then they create a lot of seams for Brock on the edge to carry the ball. So it's going to be it'll be a tough night for the Indians for sure.
There's a lot of motivation there. My sophomore year they beat us, and my junior year they beat us. So it's my last ride here. So I want to beat them one time at least.
I've been starting since sophomore year, and I haven't won the last 2 years. It's my senior year, and I know a lot of seniors who are ready to take a W home for once.
So there you go. The Indians looking to stop a 2-game losing streak to Science Hill. They understand what's on the line, and we've been talking about it for the last 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. This is all about pride. Mm-hmm. It has always been. And let me tell you a quick story, okay? I'm going to tell you a quick story. Okay. I know this is not story time, but I got a lot of stories.
I'll sit around the campfire. Okay. Let's go.
If you ask Hall of Fame coach and player Steve Spurrier about his #1 game, now I'm not talking about baseball or any of sports, just about football, he'll talk about Science Hill and Dobbins-Bennett. Guarantee you. He won't talk about the championship he won at Florida. He won't talk about the wins at South Carolina. He won't talk about what happened when he was in Washington. I guarantee you he'll talk about a game between Science Hill and Dobbins-Bennett in which they won. It is like his favorite story. That's how big this rivalry is to the kids and to the families and to the community. That's the reason why you throw all the records out.
So you're going to promise him as a guest next week, right?
Yeah, I called her 3 times and went to voicemail. So, he's a little busy with that restaurant now in Florida. Our game 2, Jefferson County and West Ridge. Once again, 6A schools, a lot on the line. West Ridge, let's be honest. We'll start with them. It's a new school, South Central and North. I didn't think we figured they would be this good this fast.
No.
They have an opportunity if Science Hill wins. I'm pretty sure they have an opportunity to lock down the 2nd seed and have 2 home games there in Bluffville.
And I think what you just brought up was a lot of people didn't think they're going to be good. And I think what Hilton brought up a couple of weeks ago when we went out to those practices, or I should say his practice, he brought up the fact that you're bringing the best players in from each school. And he goes, this is no knock on North or any of the other teams or anything like that, but when you bring in talent that's good from each of these teams, it's going to weed out the bad talent. And the way he kind of talked like that, I was like, that's a very good way to think about it. Because obviously you want numbers, and I think they had like 98, 99 kids or something like that. So obviously they have numbers for this team.
Yeah, you never saw that at South. I
exactly.
can guarantee you that.
Exactly. So you're going to have kids that love football at North, and you're going to have kids that have love football at Central, and they're going to come here and they're going to do it. So it's like when you kind of really think about it like that way, this isn't surprising that they were able to kind of put the season together they have right now. And they got the talent. We've seen it. They've been rolling over some teams. I mean, they got the big boys up front. They've got the skill position players covered. They know what they're doing, and also they have a great coaching staff as well. Hilton has run a program like South before that has been successful, and you take that and you get the resources that Westridge just has. I mean, you're going to find success. So for them to be able to possibly get the 2nd seed in the first season, that only brings them to a whole other level because kids are going to see, hey, I went to this school, I went to that school, and we didn't have the best football team, but now we're not only hosting home playoff games, but we're winning home playoff games, so you might get more kids out, which would be beneficial for Hilton and his team.
Builds a culture.
There we go.
Basically,
exactly. Hit it home.
Is what we're talking about. It builds a culture. Good news for West Ridge. That is, Ethan Bergeron didn't play last week because he was injured. He will be back. He told us that he'll be back in this game. So far this year, he's rushed for 711 yards, 13 total touchdowns. He's had 6 in the air. I know we give him a hard time sometimes on the show, but we love the kid.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, and I love him because he's basically a spitting image of my size when I played. Okay, he's not a thin guy. I mean, he's a big kid, and he's hard to bring down. He's got a strong arm.
It kind of reminds me of Jared Lorenzen from Kentucky.
There you go.
And it just is one of those things where if you're able to get it done, whether you're running the ball or passing the ball, it don't matter. And I mean, it's just one of those things where he knows his size. He can run over kids. I've seen it. We've all seen it. Yeah. And it's just truly incredible that it's not just size, though. He's got some speed, too. This kid's got a great set of wheels on him. So whoever rips on him, I know the kids ripped on him. I know that his teammates rip on him, which is fine. Hey, you know what? All that matters is if you're getting that win. I don't care what he says.
Right.
I mean,
that dub, that's all that matters. And let me take it back. Okay, the one thing that we are not similar in is I didn't have that speed. That's why I got caught and hurt in a football game. Wish I had his speed. Defensively, for West Ridge, I mean, they got some kids that can play. Eli Topping, who actually filled in last week, did a good job on offense. But he's got 74 tackles, plus he's got 10.5 tackles for loss this year. Some of the other kids that have done well for West Ridge, you don't want to pass on these cats because you got Peyton Green, Eli Asino, hope I'm saying that right, Isaac Haney. Those 3 players, between them, have 10 interceptions.
So what you just brought up, and I think people will realize this who's listening, those are kids' names that we've been saying for a couple of years now. Yep. I mean, these are experienced teams and experienced players that Central had and Sullivan South had, and actually it was North. What am I doing? So many Sullivan schools, but
Yeah.
all those names that you just brought up were names that we brought up, and they finally came together, and that's what we're seeing right now. Talk about Eli Topping. I mean, that kid's an absolute unit. He was at South, and now he is this year. I mean, the kid can break it down at the second level. He also can run the ball. I've seen him run the ball. You get him on the goal line situation, first and second, first and third, it's going to be an easy touchdown. That kid will run you over like no one's business. And also, kid goes to almost every single volleyball game. Kid leads the student section, so he's also a great student.
I like that.
He was yelling at me, and he knows who I was. He was like, hey, you got to get this on TV. I'm like, you don't have to ask me twice.
I like that.
So a lot of support from not only these guys that are on the football team, but a lot of support from the school in a whole. And I think that's what the Sullivan County wanted, was everyone to kind of come together, support this team. And I think we've seen that at these away games where they're having almost more fans, if not more, than the home fans.
Oh yeah, if we took attendance as far as high school in the area, I think West Ridge would blow everybody away.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I'm going to give you some credit on Eli, but maybe he's got a girlfriend on the team.
Hey, you sit in front row. I don't know. Maybe he's got to help us out. If someone can show us,
I'm just saying.
But he was getting them jacked up.
Okay.
So hey, even if you had a girl on team, he was bringing that energy level to a next level.
Well, that's always good to see. It's always good to see when you see other sports support other sports.
Exactly.
At your high school. Now, we had an opportunity to talk to West Ridge. Here's the key thing for West Ridge. You got to win, okay? Because there's a chance where I think they can drop all the way down to the 4th slot, and you don't want to be in that position because you're probably going to have to play Maryville, and nobody wants that. But if they win and then they get help from Science Hill, they can move into the 2nd spot, and they got 2 playoff games at home. But here's what the coach and players had to say about this big game against Jefferson County.
Really, we haven't changed anything. We've just tried to improve ourselves and get better each week, and we're getting healthy, and our guys are just they're just playing hard and having a good time.
You know, every week's a must-win. You always want to win every game, but yeah, like Coach said, we're in the playoffs now, and now we're just playing for seeding in that home playoff game.
It's simple. They just got a bunch of athletes. They got some good football players. I think that's something we've been working on and practicing on in practice, and I think it's something we need to step up to, and I think we can.
They're extremely big. They've got good size up front, play hard, very athletic in the skill positions, and really good team speed. Coach Riley does a good job, and it'll be a challenge for us.
They're really good at throwing the ball. They like to throw the ball a lot, and they're really good at running the ball as well. So if we make them one-dimensional and limit them to them just being able to do one of those things, and things work out in our favor.
We had a lot of doubters at the start of the season. We were predicted to go 1-9, so that really motivated us to, practice harder, and I think we've done a great job. There's no doubt in my mind that we were going to have a great season, but I think we've exceeded our expectations. I'm really proud of the team and how we've came together.
We just wanted to attack each game. I know it sounds, we just want to try to improve on ourselves, and these guys have done a great job gelling together, working with the coaching staff. It's been an extremely fun time.
Coming in that first game, we come out to volunteer and do really good, and we've kind of just built on it from there. We've come out every week, worked hard, and it's worked really good for us.
Let me mention, too, I was talking about the defensive side. Amarion Simmons has 2 fumbles this year for West Ridge as well. Now let's look at Jefferson County. Had a quarterback problem a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if Isaiah Hall is back. He got injured in the Toppers game. Not sure if he played last week against Mo West. We're talking about a Patriot team that had lost 17 straight games dating back to 2019 before they reeled off about 6 or 8 wins this season, which is huge for them. I mean, I used to tell you at one time this was the benchmark of football teams in our area, was Jefferson County when they were winning state championships. This is a Jekyll and Hyde. Okay, let's be honest.
You're going to Halloween. You're deep diving that stuff.
Since we closed,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
right. You're right. Let's trick or treat for a second. But here's the thing. They beat Dobbins Bennett in the Model City earlier this year, and then they come to Johnson City and get run out of the gym or the football field. So what team shows up tomorrow to take on West Ridge?
That's also a good question. I have no idea. I just think with I want to say with how Science Hill's offense is, it kind of meets Westridge a little bit more, but Westridge also has a quarterback that loves to run the ball. Now, Jackson obviously, he can run the ball, but not like Westridge. So I think with Westridge, with their size, I think they can dominate Jeff County. I really think they can. I've seen Westridge, what they can do with this team, with this offensive line, with the defensive line too, and then also we brought up the secondary level with Eli Topping leading the way. I think Westridge is going to pose a lot of problems for this team. I mean, they were missing their quarterback last week. We saw them, firing on all cylinders. They were doing a pretty good job. Yeah. So, I mean, they get him back, and then they also have, plenty of weapons surrounding him. No knock on Jeff County. I mean, I don't want to count our chickens before our eggs hatch, but, this Westridge team is loaded with talent. And that's not to say Dobbins Bennett wasn't, but I'm just saying, you saw what worked for Science Hill, and I think what Westridge can do, I think they can replicate that pretty well.
And here's the thing. The 2 losses for West Ridge has reeled off 7 or 8 straight wins, DB and Science Hill. And I don't really think either team had much of a problem with them, to be completely honest. It's hard to remember back that long. I'm an old guy. I barely remember what I ate yesterday. But we're also talking about a Jeff County team that's coming off a big win last week against Morristown West. Of course, we had highlights on a touchdown Friday night. So, once again, a lot on the line for West Ridge. They're already in the playoffs, so you can mark that off. Yep. So you can basically go out there and play loose. Okay, your season doesn't end Friday night. You're in the playoffs. Now you're fighting for playoff position. So that's kind of what they're looking at. All right, let's move on to our game 3. Chucky Doak taking on West Green, the Black Knights against the Buffaloes. And Black Knights quarterback Caden Tullock and running back Colton Smith. This is a football team that has been kind of up and down so far this season.
And I think that's honestly because they really haven't gotten to a rhythm yet. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, I keep on saying this, it seems like every other week, but I thought they had a COVID issue. And I think they had a couple of games suspended or postponed or whatever you want to call it because of COVID. But either way, I just think it's one of those things where we've seen it this year. We've seen it in the spring with Virginia. And we've seen it a couple of years ago when it first started was COVID, is that you don't look at that as a bye week. It's kind of a slap in the face because it's like you prepare for this whole team, and then a day or two before the game, oh, sorry, someone tested positive, you can't play. So that not only brings down your spirits, but it also counts as a loss, I think, or whatever that may be. But for this team, the Chucky Doak team, I really think they do have a lot of talent. I've seen one game, I forgot who it was, honestly. I think it might have been against South Green. But they're kind of sticking with South Green a little bit. South Green did pull away, but the Chucky Doak team, they always are notorious for being able to run the ball, but also being able to pass the ball to wide receivers that might not be the biggest, but they're also the fastest. I mean, those kids got a great set of wheels on them for Chucky Doak, a couple of them. But yeah, I've seen West Green too this year. They love to fight. They love to battle. This team can definitely get after it as well.
And, we just had a highlight just a minute ago. Chucky Doak playing defense. The guys to keep your eye on, Jay Stout, Trevor Henson, and Nate Rice. Obviously, most of these guys, if not all of them, go both ways. But those are 3 names to keep your eye on defense. They've done a really good job for Chucky Doak. And once again, a big game for them. This is one of those. They're in Afton, basically, Greene County. So this is a big game for them. Let's move on to West Green. They got Dawson Daniels, who plays quarterback. And then you got Jansen Kesterson, who actually had a big game the last time out. And Wyatt Moody, another name to kind of keep your eye on. West Green, a team that started off the season really well, then kind of hit a few bumps in the road.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not because of lack of talent either. I mean, we've seen this team fight. We've seen this team battle. I was at the Cherokee game. They were ahead of Cherokee. I think Cherokee rattled off like 21 or 24 or something straight points to, being able to kind of put that game away. But they've got a lot of guys that are able to get the job done. You just brought up those 3. And I think what also helps them is they got some size up front, my man. They got some guys that not only are quick with their feet on the offensive line and defensive line, but they also got some size too. So for them to be able to do what they want to do with the ball and be able to work it down the field, I think those guys are have to be stout against this Chucky Doak team, who also has some pretty big kids. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see this turn into, I wouldn't say a bit of a shootout, but I would say, there's going to be a couple of scores in this one. This isn't going to be, the 85 Bears or whatever it was, 86 Bears, So this game should be fun. This game will be fun to watch, and, obviously we'll have it covered tomorrow, so it'll be a good time.
Are we talking Super Bowl shuffle bears?
Is it 85 or 86? Is it 85?
I think it's 85.
Yeah.
Somebody will correct us if we're wrong.
Exactly.
You talk about big boys for West Green. Defensively, Roger Marshall, John Ramsey, Ethan Turner, and Wyatt Moody, who I talked about as a running back. Some of the guys to keep your eye on defensively. Okay, let's move to Southwest Virginia. I think maybe the biggest game of the entire night, to be completely honest with you, and that's Union taking on Abingdon. We begin with Abingdon, explosive offense. We know who they have in the backfield. And then, of course, we know at quarterback, Cole Lambert's coming back from that injury that he, I guess he got playing baseball.
Yep.
And he's closer and closer to being 100%, and this team continues to get better and better.
I mean, that's incredible. For a team not only to lose their starting quarterback, before the season even started, but to be able to this dominant. I mean, it's truly incredible. But kind of hats off to these two teams for, kind of putting Southwest Virginia on the map a little bit. I know Union was obviously really good last year, and Abingdon was as well. But I'm just saying, it's like we see these teams play every single week, and they're just dominant, man. I mean, Union would be undefeated if they didn't lose to Graham by 1 point. I mean, that's Graham. We know what they bring to the table. So, Abingdon, you brought it up. They can get anything done. Passing, running, whatever it may be, they're dominant. Their offense can put up the points. They can move the ball downfield quick and effectively. So if Abingdon's able to do that against Union, they're going to be tough. But that's obviously easier said than done because Union has plenty of big boys up front. I've always said that every single week when we have this show and we talk about Union is how big this offensive line is, how big some of these players are. And I think we can't forget Xavier Lomax. Kid's an absolute unit. He looks like a Greek god. 215, 220, 210, whatever it is, just chiseled and just able to run over kids. And he also has that speed.
Basically, do we have a football game Friday that might have two of the best running backs in the area when you think about Malik?
Yeah.
Houndshell, am I saying it right?
Yep.
On one side and the Z-Man on the other side. I mean, listen, we thought the Abingdon Ridgeview was going to be a pretty close game last Friday, and basically it turned into just all Falcons.
I mean, that's what you have to expect. Because if you're shutting down that run game, they got Peyton McClanahan. That kid's 6'4", 6'5", getting looked at by a couple of area schools. That kid can get up and climb the ladder and get after it. I mean, they got a couple of wide receivers. They got kids escaping my name at another running back on Abingdon. I apologize for forgetting his name, but they kind of got a dual-headed monster back there with Houndshell and the other kid.
Which was the kid we were calling his name wrong? What school was that?
I thought it was Houndshell, wasn't it?
No.
No.
It was his first name. It's the first name. I think we were calling him Chase or Carson or something.
Oh, that's volunteer.
Okay. I thought it was one of these schools.
It was Kaysen. It was Kaysen and then Carson. All right. We got the Falcons. You got the Falcons. I see where it comes from.
That's what threw me off as a Falcon. I thought it was one of these schools.
Kaysen.
That cracks me up. I mean, let us know. We ain't too big. You can't let us know when we make a mistake.
We make a mistake. We might be a coach. We might be perfect, but we ain't perfect with names. I'll tell you that
one thing we want to get right is the kid's name. I mean, that's number one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Union. Union, showing highlights of the 2018 game, and then we have highlights of Union taking on Ridgeview. You talked about it. Lomax is a load to bring down. He's just as fast. But will the Union defense have enough defensive firepower to slow down Abingdon?
That's a good question. I don't think I've seen I don't think I've seen Union enough what their secondary can bring to the table. Because if their secondary can shut down these wide receivers, which it's going to be a tough objection, but if you're able to do that, I think you could. I really think you could. This Union team obviously has dealt with teams before that have a lot of weapons. Look at Graham. I mean, pushing Graham to who they've upset last year, and then who obviously has plenty of talent this year. Pushing them to the brink, almost beating them, who I think that's their only close game this season, if I remember the schedule correctly.
Right.
But nonetheless, if you're able to do that, you can hang with any offense in the state, and defense, for that matter, too. So I think this is, like you brought up, this is going to be one of the best games, if not the best game of the night. No knocking on the other games we just talked about. But for Union and Abingdon to just go toe-to-toe, I think this one's going to be like, how Lane Kiffin said, bring your popcorn. He always says that.
Yeah.
I don't want people to start throwing stuff at me. But this is what you have to do. You got to get your popcorn ready for this game because this one's about to go off.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I mean, even though Lane said it recently, it was actually said by T.O. first.
SoCon, baby, Chattanooga.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to go and give him props.
Okay.
Who was, by the way, recruited by Frankie DeBusk, the athletic director at Dobbins Bennett. This is when he was an assistant coach there at Chattanooga. Okay, I move on.
You threw the mustard, didn't you? Don't lie to me. You were at the game. You threw the mustard. You threw the mustard at that game, didn't you, against Lake Kiffin? Yeah, you did.
You know me. I had the golf ball. Game 5, Wise Central and Gate City. Might be another game where you get your popcorn. This is a Gate City team and a Wise Central team. I think this could be a pretty good game. Let's talk about Wise Central as we take a look at their game from 2019. This is a team that's lost to some of the better teams in the area, but no slouch.
Nope.
They can play football.
Not even close. And I think this Wise Central team, before I get to dive any deeper, I think this might be the fastest game of the night. Fastest. Both teams just running the ball constantly, and that's where I'm going to start right there. Is I think whatever team wins the line of scrimmage is going to come on top on this one. Both teams just old school, Big Ten type football. Love to run the ball. Going to be low scoring games. I know that Gate City just put up the points against Abingdon a couple of weeks ago, and I know that I've been burying teams, but Wise Central's got a good defense. They've got a good defensive front. They got a good second level with the linebackers. I think that Wise Central really just needs to buckle down in that run game for Gate City. You got Brady Edwards and Carson Jenkins for Gate City. And no knock on the other people on this team. I'm not trying to rip you guys for that. But if you shut those two down, this offense is going down with it.
Well, if we take a look at highlights of Lee and Wise Central, obviously, we talked a little bit about what we're going to see from Central. Then when we talk about Gate City, this is a team that is getting better, I think, each game. Start off really slow. We talk about speed, and we've talked about him all year long. They got a really fast running back that if he's able to get out in space, he's hard to catch. Not only is he able to shake you because he's a strong back, but he's also able to lead you. I think this would be a huge notch in their belt if Gate City is able to pull off this week.
100%. I mean, after the fights you've been through this whole season, I mean, the one that I always bring up because I was at that game is Radford. I mean, Gate City was going toe-to-toe with Radford, and at that point in the season, I think Radford was 3-0 or 4-0, whatever it may be. But to push an undefeated team like that, I mean, you had the pieces to be good for the rest of the season. I'm not saying they haven't done well this year, but I think their record is a little misconstruing. It just, you look at it and you say, well, it's not really a good football team. No, they are. They just have had some tough battles and had the ball bounce their way once or twice that they didn't want it to go. So you bring up the running back situation. You have Brady Edwards, as I mentioned before, and Carson Jenkins, the big man right there. That's who everyone needs to key on. He's been carrying the load all season long, and it's not going to change this game no matter what you do. But like I said, a couple weeks against Abingdon, I mean, I have it right in front of me. They rushed for 408 yards. That was all their yards against Lee. When you look at that, it baffles me a little bit, where it's like, if you're able to run the ball that well, why wouldn't you want to do that the rest of the season? So Wise Central better be ready for a fight. I know they are. Gate City better be ready for a fight in the trenches. I know they are. These two teams really kind of have the same type of offense. So I think, like I said, I think it might be the fastest game of the night. Don't hold me to it. I'm not a betting man, but I think it might be it.
You know what?
A betting man?
Okay.
Moving
on, folks.
Smirk on his face.
We want to thank you for watching a Prep Football Preview brought to you by FriendshipCars.com. Make sure to watch us again every Thursday night for a preview of that week's game. Next week, we'll be also talking about the playoffs, because this is the final week in Tennessee. Week 11, a Touchdown Friday night, tomorrow night. So check out the highlights of these games in Week 10 from Southwest Virginia. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Sleek. Mr. Sleek.
I like
Mr.
that.
Teague. Wow, I put two words together. Thank you, Mr. Teague. That is Sleek. I don't know where I got that. Yeah, no, you probably already cut my mic off. All right, for Jesse, I'm Kenny saying, have a great night, everybody.